Hello YouTubers and fellow hams. Well, we're having a look today at what I think is a rather rare radio. I've been searching the web looking for schematics and information on it, and I can find almost nothing. I haven't even been able to find an image of this radio through a Google image search and rather extensive web searching for about an hour. This is a Knight brand dual band FM monitor receiver. Now it covers two bands in FM mode, 30 through 50 megahertz and 150 or so through 174 or 75 megahertz. So I believe that these were commercial bands back in the 70s or so for police, fire, utility in the VHF region up here, and probably also similar utility services in the 30 to 50 megahertz range. So it's a communications receiver for commercial fire, rescue, police, utility, and service radio. Really kind of interesting. Solid state. This was probably made in about the 60s. And Knight was a trade brand of Allied Radio Corporation, which started in the 50s and was sold to Radio Shack in the 70s. So that's what I've learned so far from searching on this radio. Now this radio does work. Let me turn it on. You can hear we've got static. Squelch works. We'll turn the volume up a little bit. Now I'm on the FM2 band presently, which is 30 through 47, 48, 50 megahertz. I'm going to turn on my RF generator, which I've got set, somewhere around 46 to 47 megahertz, and let's tune. There it is. Right there, it's picking it up just fine. So that band is working. I've got no antenna hooked up to it. This is an antenna jack over here, and there's nothing hooked to it right now. Let me turn on some modulation. Now you can hear it's working. Oops, well, okay. Now let's go to FM1, which is 150 to 175 megahertz. To test that band, I don't have an RF generator that goes that high, but what I do have, which a lot of hams have, is a cheap Baofeng, which, as you know, these guys are opened up. So I've got it hooked into my dummy load over there, and I've punched in 170 megahertz. So if I transmit on the Baofeng, it will transmit. So let's see if we can pick it up. Hello, hello, hello. So this receiver is working just fine, and it's very, very clean. There's a little bit of a paint smudge here on the top corner of the case. Other than that, the dial, the face, the knobs, everything is very clean about it. The only thing I notice is that the tuning indicator, which is a centered meter for tuning FM, what they would do is off the discriminator they'd sample voltages. And as you tune to one side of the frequency or the other, this meter would follow, so you'd tune until the meter was centered. And it does not do a thing. So I can't find any schematics on this radio. I might take a look at that, but I don't know that that'll be fixable, and I don't know if that's an issue. The receiver does work. So let's take the cover off of it and take a look at the insides of this 1960s or so vintage solid state communications receiver. All right, looking at the back of the radio now, the only moniker anywhere on the radio that indicates anything like a model number is right here, 902-002-T. So that would be the model. We've got an antenna input back here, and a ground, and a power. That's pretty much it on the back. Let's take the cover off. There are 4 screws, 2 on either side, and the cover simply lifts straight off. A little bit dusty inside, but I'd expect that. It's sat somewhere for years. It looks like 4 PC boards on the top. Just regular old single-sided through-hole PC boards. Let me reposition the camera and give you a better look. So here we can see inside the radio. And it looks like it's logically broken out into sections. We've got a power supply over here. We've got what must be the audio amplifier here. Two transistors, mirrored circuitry, and a transformer. That's going to be a push-pull audio amplifier. NPN and the PNP transistor. Yeah, and then we've got our impedance matching output transformer for the speaker or headphones. Over here is an RF board with the VFO. Let's see if you can see that okay. There we go. Multi-ganged capacitor and other circuitry. Interesting shielding in just little sections here, just little pieces of shielding between these sections. Oh. This back here would be the IF board. So 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 4 stages of IF, and this would probably be a mixer. And various adjustments there, which I'm not going to play with. The radio does work. So very clean on top. Very clean. This must be the power transformer. In our power supply, I see 2 diodes, so it's full wave rectified and filtered with a transistor there for voltage regulation, I guess. To get to the underside, rather than lay the radio on its back with the chassis open, I don't want to risk impacting any of these IF cans or damaging any of the metal. This radio is absolutely pristine and clean. So I'm going to put the top case back on, flip it over, and then we'll take the bottom panel off and we'll have a look underneath. Okay, looking at the underside of the radio, there were 1, 2, 3, 4 screws to hold the bottom panel. It looks like there's a place for a 5th one right here that's missing that supports the middle of the chassis. So I'll have to find a matching screw to go there. This radio is absolutely pristine. And the panel just comes off. Oh, very nice. It's very nicely done. Okay. Well, that explains why the front panel meter doesn't work. These are the wires from the meter, which are disconnected. Doggone it. Who knows where they go. Or why they were disconnected. Well, that's not necessary for the receiver to work. Can't tell if these are modifications. I don't think so. Let's have a closer look at this. So we've got the undersides of the boards. Nice hand-drawn board layouts and manual hand-soldered connections. It looks like this was hand-assembled in Japan. It says that all over the case. A nice wire loom here. Look, they've tied up the coaxial cables, the interconnects between that's the band switch and the IF board. And it looks like some of that goes down to the RF board as well. Interesting stuff going on over here on this terminal strip. These, I don't know if these are factory or added in secondhand. It's really interesting. Here's our power fuse. Yes, I've unplugged it. This is where our power comes in, and this is filtering. I'll do some more research, try to find a schematic or manual for this one, but I haven't even found pictures of it, so I don't think that I'll be successful. So if you're on eBay and you're watching this, be aware the front panel tuning meter does not work because somebody, not me, somebody disconnected it. So assuming the meter itself is okay, if you could find the service manual for this radio and reconnect those wires, the tuning meter should work, theoretically. So that's the underside of the chassis. Very clean wiring, very nicely put together. Let me put the chassis back together and we'll have one final look at the front. So that's a look at Night dual band FM monitor receiver. It's cosmetically nearly perfect. I see a very small dot here on the squelch. It looks like somebody put a pen mark there, perhaps marking where they thought they needed to turn it up to. There's another little dot over here and a couple of dots on the speaker grill. No scratches on the dial. It's a little fogged, but overall it's all pretty clean. No dents or scratches on the case. There's a little discoloration up here. on the one corner, and just a slight discoloration right here on the top of the case. It looks like something might have got spilled on it at some point and cleaned off. The paint is just a little bit lighter right there. Other than that, the radio is cosmetically perfect. It's really quite an interesting example of a niche market radio with a very specific function. So, thanks for watching this look at the night receiver. I hope you found it interesting. I certainly found it interesting looking at this old radio. 73.